Yeah, we're good. No,
All right, we're good.
That's warm up. That's recording, right? You got that?
Exactly.
Tell me you got that.
Johnny and Justin were two simple Imagineers at Disneyland until they dared to ask the question,
"Hey, Justin, is Disney diverse?"
Well, Johnny, I'm not.
Oh no, we've angered the mouse!
Stormtroopers, run!
Holy crap, it's a gallon of cookies!
Now, from undisclosed locations within the Disney park, Johnny and Justin record a podcast where they seek to answer the question, is the Disney catalog diverse?
So, hey everybody, welcome to Disney+Diversity, where we go through the Disney catalog and discuss different Disney properties to talk about how diverse and actually inclusive they are. In case you didn't know, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Justin.
And today, we're talking about a little bit of specialists that I'm really excited about. Justin, tell the people what we're talking about.
Well, it's an old cartoon show that I think every child can remember this period in school that they were most excited about. There's a chance to not be cooped up in the classroom. There was a chance to let loose, have fun. It's not quite lunch, but it is.
Recess. Recess. Oh man, I'm excited. All right, so Justin, before we jump into it or anything like that, Recess, where'd you first see or experience Recess?
Here's the thing, right? So Recess came out in 2000, 2001. So, like, I was already well into high school at that point. So it was one of those shows that I remember it would air on ABC Saturday morning, and I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, I'm a teenager now. I don't want to watch this anymore. So I remember seeing, like, little bits of it when I'm trying to watch my superhero shows, because clearly that's okay. But
there it is.
But kid shows was like, well, maybe I would have been into this if I was like 8, but I'm like 15 now, so I'm good. So yeah, it was a show I was aware of, but I was like not like, oh man, did you watch the new episode of Recess when I went to like, history class in sophomore year? How about you, Johnny?
Low-key is the same thing because so in high school, 2001, I was like doing a bunch of different stuff. Like, I had after-school clubs going on. I was doing sports, baseball, football. Also, you just like doing high school stuff, hanging out with friends, had a job and all these different things. So it was very rare that I actually came home to still catch the Disney afternoon or anything like that. But those rare occasions where I would get home, say around like 3:30, 4 o'clock or whatever, I might just like turn the TV on in the background while I'm doing something. And then low key, I just happened to catch like Recess one day. I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, this ain't that bad. This is actually kind of cool. Oh, this is like kind of dope or anything like that. And then later on, like when I went to college where, like you have like a ton of free time, but you really don't. And you're just kind of like sitting around, like hanging with your friends all day. Every once in a while, again, it's just show up on TV in the background. I'm like, man, this show's actually like really dope. And so it was one of those things where I just like end up watching like almost like a lot of the series just in the background. And it was like a really dope experience. Like honestly, like watching it, like I remember like later on, I would like mention it with friends. Like later on after the show had like gone off the air or whatever, and people like, oh yeah, Recess, that shit was fire. And I'm like, yeah, it's a really dope show. Like honestly, that's what I'm really excited to talk about today. Like all I have is like positive memories of it. So as we're getting ready to do this, I was a little bit worried because there's other things we've done. I'm like, will it be woke? Will it be diverse? And so honestly, that's the reason. But at the same time, though, That's what I'm trying to talk about and see like how well it stands up. For people who may not remember, when we do television series, we only do the first 1, 2, 3, 4.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, fifth. Go ahead, ask me a question.
Did you?
Fifth. I have a secret document that I think you need to say.
First 5 episodes. So the thing about this is that we only do the first 5 because we can't watch the entire series. So today we watched the first 5 episodes of Recess. But the interesting thing about it is though, Recess is actually broken up into little 15-minute episodes.
So we kind of got a lot of story.
Yeah, we actually watched about 10 vignettes in a way. So it was really cool. So Justin, how was it watching it now?
It was interesting because I kind of sat there and like it's one of those cases where it's one of those shows where I like. Again, like I said, I'm 36 now, so definitely past the prime of me like being.
Oh, you're so old, Justin.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Old.
I know.
Not like myself, who's a young spry 23. No, I'm in my 30s too. I'm in my 30s too.
So like for me, it's like I when I was watching the first like 5, I was sitting there going, okay, listen, I adjust to who the audience is for, and as I sat there, I went, oh, you know what, like. I can definitely see like 8-year-old me being super into this. It's a lot like watching. It's one of those cases where it's like it's such an easy concept. You know, it's like, hey, everyone has recess. Everyone, you know, and almost everyone has recess. And the idea that like, yeah, like the idea that like you can create a whole mini world in recess. And you know what? Here's the other fun thing about it being like 10, 15 minutes long. How long is recess, Johnny?
Like 10, 15 minutes long. Like
it's kind of genius. They also were like, no, like in 10, 15 minutes, a whole world of stuff can happen to you.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to these kids. So in these kids, it's like you have hierarchies, you have like clans, you have a king. Even the kindergartners are its own like subculture.
Primitive savages.
Primitive savages. Oh man, that's my favorite little detail of this universe is that like if you're a kindergartner, you are like a wild, like like a wild child that needed to be tamed by society. That's your graduation, your kindergarten teacher. So yeah, no, it sort of makes sense to have like all these giant world building stuff, and yeah, you know it's cartoon, so things are bigger than the real world. So you know, like, but it is. As I sat through like 5, and the 5 episodes went by fast, super fast. So I had fun with it, Johnny.
Same. Like honestly, when I went back and watched it, it really stuck in my mind because I was thinking about like recently how like we have children's properties that come out, but sometimes they don't perform well, and people will be critical of it. But then the directors, the writers, the people who start to get cast will start to get upset. It was like, well, you don't understand. We made this for kids, so you don't understand this. Like it wasn't meant for you. We made it for kids. Which I'm like, no, you're being lazy, and that's kind of a cop out. Because the thing about it is, though, is that good storytelling is just good storytelling at any level. That's the reason why, like, even as adults, we look back to, like, some kids' books that, like, stand the test of time, and people still buy them and, like, put them in their own personal collections because they have fond memories of them, and they also just, like, remember that good storytelling, and then they want to share it with their children. And when I was watching Recess, I was like, yeah, this is totally made for a different audience, but it's still fun to watch because it's still really good, like, storytelling. It still has some, like, nice jokes that hold up over time. It has interesting and, like, deep characters, which, again, in a kids show, which is so to see. And so honestly, it's amazing. So yeah, I was really excited to watch this. The episodes went by really quick. All right, so let's jump into it. All right, so the first episode was it's actually really brilliant. So the first episode, like it's the new kid, and the first video is the one called Recess, right?
The break-in.
The break-in, thank you. The break-in.
Yeah.
So
and correction, the first season aired in '97.
Okay.
But at the same time, 97, I was like, this is hilarious. I was literally in 7th grade when the show came out. So that means like I had no interest. I was like, no, I'm past kids stuff, you know. But yeah, the break-in. So it's interesting. The very first episode of the show, the break-in, we are introduced to our cast characters, and specifically we're introduced to TJ.
Backwards caps.
That's why we're doing this.
Yep.
TJ, and it's interesting the idea that, like TJ does like kind of, what was it, like he basically he puts on like what was the thing he kind of got in trouble for? I forgot what it was.
What was it?
Yeah.
Oh, he was the cafeteria. So they're drinking they get the tomato surprise soup or whatever, which is pretty much on the level of battery acid. And so TJ decides like, no, we're gonna break in where the good food is, because in the cafeteria like they keep things stored away like ice cream and things like that for like a later day. So TJ's like, no, we're gonna get to the good food, but he gets busted by the school's strict teacher, Miss Grundler, and then he gets like the ultimate punishment, and as a child, which you hate, and that's going to be you're not allowed to go to recess. It's like, no. And so
go ahead.
Which is dope, like, because again, it's a fun premise. But then after this, like, it's really cool because I like this first episode, because after this, like, TJ is like, the leader of his group. But then after this, we get to meet the rest of his group, and they get a chance to shine, and we get to figure out what their personalities are. So we get to meet like Vince LaSalle, which is like the African American kid, smart, cool, charismatic, also like the athlete, everything like that. We meet Gretchen Grundler, who's the smart kid, glasses, super dope and everything like that. And then who else is in the crew? Of course, we get to meet Spinelli, the thug, the gangster, the muscle of the group. So we get to meet Spinelli, which is dope and everything like that. And the way she's drawn is like, oh, Spinelli must be Asian American or something like that. She's got a little bit of tan to her. So again, it'll show like a little bit of diversity in the cast and everything like that. So when you first saw the cast, like, what'd you think?
It's one of those cases where it's like, like when you look at the cast, it is definitely your standard case of okay, kids, a diverse group of kids in the vein of you got your usual suspects. You got your Spanky, that's TJ. You got your leader. You got your nerd, which is Gretchen. Listen, I do like. Hold on, I do like. What's the African American kid's name again?
Vince LaSalle.
Yeah, I do like him, but I do like Vince. But also, it's like he also plays basketball, and
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm actually
Spinelli is great. I do like Spinelli. Go ahead.
See, I'm actually cool with Vince that way, and we'll get to it when we talk about other characters. But the reason why I'm cool with Vince being in that light is because he's not the only character. He's not the only black character on the show. It's like if you're only the only black character in the show, then it's like, cool, you have to be a representation for everybody. But that's not the case. Like, they have multiple different people who are different races, like, all spread throughout. So there's never a point where, like, Vince has to represent, like, all African Americans. You have different people who, like, bring in different concepts, which is dope to see. Which is like, okay, that allows you to have Vince be good at sports. And honestly, that makes it okay, too, because there's a lot of black kids, like, who grow up, like, into sports and who are good at them, who want to do that. I'm not one of them. But Vince can totally be that. Good job, Vince.
Now, I do have to address the other kind of typical trope that we go through in almost every 90s property, cartoon, movie, what have you. And listen, I like him. I do like him. Mikey is...
Oh, the chubby kid. The
poet. It's the poet. It's one of those things... But it's also one of those things where, like, even when we did our Gargoyles episode, it's a standard in these shows to go like, and the fat one who eats a lot and who like shoves down a whole club sandwich in one shot, and it's like, this is why so many it's got a complex, because like cartoon shows and movies do this, and it's like, come on. But outside of that, here's something I'll say that's kind of the fun thing about the first episode, right? The break-in. The first episode of a show called Recess. The smart move is you punished one of the characters to not go to recess. And because of that, what you ended up doing is creating the world of your show, because immediately in your situation, you found a way to get rid of the almost the high concept of the show right off the bat. And then B, because you've created the situation, that also means what you've done is found a reason for all the characters to react to that situation. So the break-in is essentially a prison break movie.
Exactly.
It's basically everyone using their certain skill sets to get TJ out of his situation. You know?
Which is actually interesting too, because like it's funny because schools almost like prisons, not exactly, but like they have a lot of the same social dynamics which is like you have like all these groups of people put together and you have these different cliques and whatnot. So this allows them to go ahead and like as TJ's friends want to get them out, they have to go to all the different groups. So I agree with the assess of the universe of the world, because now we get to meet all the different cliques that exist within inside the school, which are all the stereotypes you think back to your own childhood. You think about the girl who used to like always like the kid who used to always like love being on the jungle gym and like hang upside down for like hours at a time. Was like, how are you not passing out? How are you not passing out? You get to be like, you get to see like again, like you say, the kindergartners who are the immature kids or just running buck wild, doing whatever, like meow 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 meow, which is like just hilarious to see. Then again, the older kids, kids who are like 5th or 6th grade, they pretty much run everything because they're also just way bigger than everybody else, and there's a hierarchy there. So like usually like the most popular kid there is in charge of them. So you get to meet King Bob, which is hilarious, but it shows like again how like schools function in a way with like popular kids and everything like that. And then of course we meet like the Diggers and Swinger Girl and like all these other subsidiary characters, and it's just like a dope thing to see.
Now there's a lot. Here's the thing: while we did 5 episodes, that also technically means we technically saw 10
vignettes.
Mini episodes.
Yeah.
So we can't go through every single one of them. So I want to say, what off the bat of the 10, besides the first episode, we felt like I have to talk the first episode. It sets everything up. But what of the 10 little short stories we saw, what was the first one that sticks in your mind as like that one really got me really quickly?
Okay. All right. There's a couple, but low key like kind of so weird. So low key is the second episode. It's the second vignette that we get that first episode. The new kid. So for people wondering, like, go watch the first episode because like it's funny. They try to bust kid. They're trying to bust TJ out and they get everybody help. Then we go to the next episode, which is the new kid, which is really smart because that introduced the 6th member of the group, almost like Power Ranger style in a way. It's like the 6th Ranger shows up. This week we get Gus Griswold, and it's really cool because Gus like shows up and everything like that. He's like this dirty kid and everything like that, kind of quiet, kind of soft spoken. But again, he meets these, and he established at the beginning he's a military brat. So he talks about how he's been to 12 schools in 6 years. So that means he's only spent like 3 to 4 months at each school, which must be terrible. Like he's never made friends or anything like that. So it was really heartwarming when he gets to the school. Like everybody meets him or anything like that. They befriend him. But the same thing always happens when like a new kid shows up to school. For the first 2 weeks, oh, that's the new kid. Yeah. And that's kind of what happens. And to be honest with you, for those of you know, like I write comic books. I'm also a high school teacher. I low-key do that same joke in my old classroom. Whenever you get a new student, I'm like, oh, what's up, new kid? What's up, new kid? Welcome to class, new kid. But you know, but I'm not doing it a bullying way. I'm doing it as a way like to break the ice and joke around with them. Just like to play around and get to know who they are more. But here for Gus shows up and by TJ's group he's being treated as a friend. But then boom, King Bob shows up and is like, oh, so you're new? Cool. Your title now is new kid, and you don't lose this title until we get a new kid. It was like, wait, what? So now nobody calls him by Gus. He's a second-class citizen, and like he hates it. Like all of a sudden he was loving the school, and that was terrible for him. But the reason why I love this episode is the way that it ends, because at the end of this episode, TJ and his group of friends come through and like, look, let's get him his name back. Let's call it favors. So on one day, as he's going to school, everybody calls him Gus. He drives by a billboard. Billboard says Gus. They get to school, marching band's there. It's like, what's up, Gus? They made a statue for him. Which I was like, how do you make a statue? Which was hilarious. But again, it was like, welcome Gus. But when King Bob shows up, all of the stuff goes away. And Gus is like, wait, what happened? You know me. And TJ's like, yeah, we know you. But do you know who you are? And then Gus has to stand up for himself. And Gus goes to King Bob and is like, look, King Bob, I don't care about this and that. I want my name back. This is the first place I felt comfortable, and I don't want to be called New Kid anymore. And King Bob's like, yeah, whatever, cool, you got your name back. And it just kind of shows right there. It just kind of shows that again. It's like, I love that episode because one, Gus had to stand up for himself, but his friends also got his back. You were able to find 2 different solutions to the same problem and kind of show that dichotomy. And it was like really dope to see. And again, it was a really smart way to set up Gus as his new character to the group. All right.
And you know what? Here's what a nice thing about that episode. Gus' introduction also means it does add another element in the show. It's very simple. It's not super revolutionary. But the idea that normally, you know, like a show like this, they were like, well, we have one character with glasses who's kind of a dork. We don't need 2. No. No, this was they decided like Gretchen represents one kind of a person who acts and looks like her, and and then Gus represents the other half. Like, it's like, and I kind of do like the fact that even at the end of this episode, there was a kid who goes up to King Bob and is like, wait, he stopped being called New Kid after what, a week, but I'm stuck with being New Kid for 3 years, and King Bob was like, yeah, you should have spoke up earlier.
Yeah.
And that's like a good lesson to teach,
Exactly. It's cool. It's like shows like your friends should get your back, but you should also empower your friends to stand up for themselves. Okay, so going through like the videos we saw, what was the one that stood out for you? I
actually really enjoyed the Great Jungle Gym standoff.
Oh my gosh! All right, so did I. Break it down for her. Break it down. I have a lot of notes about this episode.
The Great Jungle Gym standoff is one of those cases where like this to me is pure like nostalgia of going to elementary school and going to recess, and the idea that like there's the jungle gym. Every school has a jungle gym, and everyone has particular feelings about the jungle gym, because the jungle gym, and when you're growing up, jungle gym is everything. The jungle gym, if you're playing X-Men, it's Danger Room. If you're playing, if you're pretending that you're climbing a mountain, it's the mountain. It's like
if you're the Turtles, it's the sewer.
It's the sewers. If you're the Power Rangers, it's the command center. It's everything and everything. And because it is a jungle gym that is a thing that transforms whatever your imagination is. And so the idea that every kid has a connection to a jungle gym because you're there every day. Yeah, you're there every day. And so the idea that the jungle gym is something that is very personal to these kids, and it's challenged when the introduction of the principal finally shows up. Who is, I forgot what his name is already, but the principal is like one of those, he sucks.
Principal Prickly.
There it is. Oh, wow. Very subtle. But but the thing is that he tells the kids, is like, all right, cool, good news. I have money. We have some money. We're going to get a brand new jungle gym. And everyone's like, sweet. And we're going to replace it with this. We're going to place this old one with that one. Whoa, pause. What was that? They called, and even the fact that they're like, you're going to get rid of Old Rusty? Yeah. And even the principal's like, I'm sorry. The fact that you named it Old Rusty is a reason we should get rid of it. Because it is clearly not a safe jungle gym. It's got, I can see, the fact that they drew rust parts here and there on the slide, no less. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's a good gym. And so the idea is that everyone's like, I guess we have to move on, but not TJ. Not TJ. Mm-hmm. TJ makes a stand, and he inspires the whole school to go, no, Principal Prickly, we're not getting rid of Jungle Gym. We're not getting rid of Old Rusty. And so it is a hilarious 10-minute, 15-minute episode of just a bunch of kids protesting. And Principal Prickly just doing everything he can. And it's this kind of cute little story about the fact that the jungle gym means so much to not just to these kids, but it's they're pointing oh, and all these great stories that happened. This so and so fell over there, and so got this, and blah 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 blah.
And Jimmy broke his arm, and blah blah blah. Yeah,
and that's kind of fun. And the episode was it was kind of fun to do sort of a poke on that kind of activism and and etc. And so what kind of makes the episode really special to me is when they're finally pulling the last card, the ultimate last card, which is all right.
Plan P. Fine. Plan P.
We call your parents. What? Which is the worst thing. The worst thing that happened to you when you're an elementary school kid. The worst thing is you're so bad. I have to call your mother, and no one wants that. So the idea that all the parents are coming in droves, going, "What is going on? Why are you telling us? What's wrong with our kids?" And they all see that the kids are protecting the jungle gym, and the principal's like, "This is why." And then all the parents are like, "What do you mean getting rid of Old Rusty?" And then all of a sudden, all the parents start climbing the jungle gym, and they're like, "You're not doing that. You're not doing that either." And so the principal is like, "What the literal?"
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I'm like, again, it ties in the idea that again, everyone's got elementary school, everyone's gone to elementary school, and everyone has experiences with recess. And I like that this episode does that so basic to the point where not only do the kids, clearly the parents. If their parents lived in this town their whole life, they of course also were on this jungle gym. They of course were also connected to the jungle gym. And so the idea that they were like, what? How dare you? You know? And they teamed up with their kids in protest. Though there was an after effect of that. Gretchen realizes that, like, hey, I just did the calculations. Old Rusty is still old, and all of us on here at once doesn't necessarily mean Old Rusty's gonna end and they all crash down as Old Rusty gets broken down. Even like, the construction workers actually find out that they have the parts to basically rebuild Old Rusty into a new Old Rusty. So eventually they end up doing both. They got rid of their old jungle gym because of situations, but basically retained the jungle gym. And I thought this episode was legitimately funny too. There's some good bits with the construction workers where the principal's like, can't you just knock them down with the kids in there? It's like, no, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It's like we had a meeting and it was like I was dying laughing.
What about your thoughts on this episode? What is it?
Whoa. Oh God. Oh God. Oh, Justin.
Shut up.
Yeah, of course. Something wrong here.
How do they keep finding us?
It's like I hear those noises in my dreams.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night, and all I hear is I'm like,
Stop. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Okay. All right.
Oh God. And I swear, Justin, I saw them pass by. They got Ewoks now.
What?
They have Ewoks helping the Goofies.
Wait, how did that happen? Do they just carry them under their arms? How do they do that?
They were just following behind with sticks and logs and everything like that. Like, I don't know what they had planned for us, but we got to wrap this up. Ewoks are around now. Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. So recess. So Old Rusty. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So same. Like, I love this episode, and there was a lot of cool things that happened in this episode. Like, one, it is the first episode we get like one of the first classic TJ speeches, which is amazing because TJ always makes one of those like classic like inspirational speeches, and I love to hear because Principal Prickle was like, "You guys need to get off of here. This is school property," and TJ is like, "School property? You own this? Like." This is the place where like little Jimmy broke his leg. This is the place where we used to like come and laugh and cry and everything like that. This is a place where I met my best friends. You can't own memories. You can't own magic. And I'm butchering it, but TJ just like, he broke it down. When he said that you can't own magic, I was like, oh my gosh. TJ needs to be president. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I love that. And like, also like, I love the part where the parents showed up too, but it was cracking me up about how the kids were singing like old protest songs. They're like, we shall not be moved. And they started going to like some of these other protest songs when you do the civil rights movement. I'm like, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this. But at the same time, what I realized is that, low-key, though, you're teaching kids how to stand up for their rights. You're teaching them some of the old protest songs that are still used today. So I was like, you know what, this is actually kind of dope. Like, it's kind of inspiring in a way. Like, I kind of love how you did this. So that's actually kind of really cool. So I did like that a lot. That, again, like, it was a way to teaching activism in a children's show that people won't even realize like until later on. When they run into issues like, yo, we need to stand up to something. It was like, oh, wait, we can do a sit-in. Kind of like they did in Recess. It's a form of nonviolent protest, which is really inspiring to see. So, yeah, no, I love this episode, too. It was dope.
What's another episode you can think of off the top of your head that you were like, oh, this was really good?
Okay, so, for me, after this, it is The Jinx.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so to break it down in the Jinx, the kids are explaining to the Gus again because he's still kind of like the new kid or whatever. That when you're at school, the thing about it is there's a kids on rule code of conduct or whatever. Like there's just like rules you gotta follow as a kid, and like one of them is like the Jinx rule or whatever. So the Ashleys are really cool. They're this like group of like popular girls who like all hang together. It's like their little clique or whatever, and they're all happen to have the same first name, Ashley. There's Ashley A, Ashley Q, Ashley T, Ashley B. And so again, what's cool about them is that they're all a diverse group. Like there's a white one, there's a black girl, there's a Latina girl, then a girl with like red hair and everything like that. And so what's dope is like they're again, it's like this nice diverse clique. But the thing about it is they're bullies at the same time. They're the villains of this episode. So what they do is they trick Gus into like getting Jinx, which the old school Jinx. It was like you say the same thing, somebody else is like Jinx, you can't speak until blah blah blah. Till somebody says her name. And so Gus, again, going by what TJ just said, like you got to follow the kids' code of conduct. He goes throughout the whole episode trying to get someone to say his name, but the Ashleys keep showing up there, like causing more chaos and keep like holding it off from happening, everything like that. It gets to the point where like the teachers get involved and King Bob gets involved, and it goes all the way to Principal Prickly. And Principal Prickly, like this kid's weird, he's not talking. Call the district. The district comes down and all this kind of stuff. And again, the Ashleys have orchestrated this whole thing. Finally, TJ and his friends realize what's going on. They say Gus's names. He's like, "Thank you. I was just waiting for someone to say my name," and it's awesome. And even the district guys and Principal Prickly's like, "Wait, you're not going to take him away?" He's like, "Nah, it's the third case of this happening this week," which is hilarious to hear. Again, the kids are just getting Jinx like this. But the reason why I love this episode, it passes the Bechdel test. Because one, the show's already passed like the Bechdel test in a way by having Spinelli and Gretchen as like two main protagonists who have their own independence, who get to do their own thing. But here we also get villains. We get villains and antagonists in the Ashleys who are like again doing their own thing, causing trouble, causing mayhem, and everything like that. And again, they're not here talking about boys. They're talking about like their own stuff that they're interested in, like which is again, causes some chaos, but it's still cool to do. And again, it's also a nice, diverse group of girls. Like I was telling you beforehand, like if Vince LaSalle was the only black character on the show, it would be a problem. But Ashley B is also black, and so it kind of makes it cool because Ashley B has her own set of interests and her own set of things she wants to do. I will say it's a little bit interesting that she's black and her name is Ashley B.
Why?
Ashley B, Ashley Black.
Oh,
there, yeah. But I think that was honestly like I don't see any like malice in that. I think that just might have been like an honest mistake. But I was cracking up when I realized it. I was like, it was like low-key reminded me of like Power Rangers where like Zack's the Black Ranger. It's like, really, y'all?
Yellow Ranger.
Exactly. He's like, okay, we doing this? Like, okay. But I don't think there was any. I don't think there was any malicious stuff there. I think it was just like a coincidence that happened. But again, this was one of my favorite episodes because it clearly shows the show passes the Bechdel test and has a great diverse set of characters of different like genders and whatnot. So that was dope for me. All right, your turn. What's a favorite episode? So wait, how did you feel about this episode when you saw it?
I think it's also that's another one where it's like again, it takes the idea of a thing that kids deal with because when you hear about the Jinx game, it's like. Kind of sounds a little cruel, And if you're not good at this stuff, it would sound like a torturous idea. And so the idea that poor Gus is forced into a Jinx game means they're in what fourth grade? So
fourth
grade maybe
fourth
grade. So the idea that they're kind of like. They have to stick by these rules because it's the lay of the law, and so the idea that Gus has to abide, and because of the cartoonness because it's a cartoon, it explodes really bad on him. So it's like it's not just like he has to. It's like now that again the teachers are getting involved. The cops got. It's like it's this whole thing, and all it is just a game of Jinx, but. That's the rules, So I do like the idea that it's like takes a thing that's just like simple kid stuff and then go, all right, cool. Now how do we blow it up so that it's kind of worse for them in this situation? So it's a fun episode for sure.
Nice. Nice. I agree. It's super dope. It's super fun. The writing's clever, and this is an awesome episode. It was dope.
All right. Let's go ahead and just overall general thoughts on the show. Like general wrap-ups thoughts on the show. I think we've talked a lot about each episode that we really got into. Mm-hmm. In terms of what you think the show accomplishes in terms of diversity? What do you think is some of the strongest elements that, like, you're kind of surprised, like, wow, that was in '97 and it still kind of works to today?
Well, I'll tell you what. You wanna let's do that. You want to give a rating and we do that exact same thing?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me get my marker. One sec.
This old Rusty, as you call it, is school property. And as the keeper of school property, I feel a certain sense of ownership over it. So in the name of 3rd Street School, it is my responsibility to say to you, get off my jungle gym!
Your jungle gym? How can you own a jungle gym? How can you own the way the monkey bars feel in a kid's fingers when he's hanging in midair? How can you put a price on the cool, clean feel of metal on a guy's butt when he's sliding full blast down a slide? It's like magic. And let me tell you something, Principal Prickly. Magic is not school property. Yeah! Heck no, we won't go. Heck no, we won't go.
On 3. 1, 2, 3.
Oh!
Whoa! Yay! Da 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 da. So all right, okay, so why woke? All right, well, I'll go first this time. You went first last time. Part of the reason why I gave it woke is one, the theme song's amazing, which you've heard us sing multiple times throughout this episode. But another reason why is because it passes a lot of my basic tests. It passes the Bechdel test because we get a lot of strong female characters who are having conversations about their own issues and things they're dealing with, and just again having their own independence. Furthermore, we also pass the Wire test. We have 2 characters of color who are talking, and it happens like multiple times throughout like the different episodes. Furthermore, we have a great diverse cast of like different races and everything like that. Like we have a kid of African American descent. We have a kid of Spinelli of Asian American descent. And then the thing about it is that they do hint at like other Latino characters throughout the show as well. And we see kids of other different races throughout it as well. So the dope thing about it is that like we get a lot of representation here. So all in all, like I gotta give it credit. Like this show in 1997 was really ahead of its time. Like it was doing all the things that we talk about you should be doing like in writing and like just in general, but it was doing it back then. Which I think is the reason why now when you go to Comic-Cons, you see like girls walk around dressed as Spinelli. You see kids walk around dresses like TJ or Vince. Again, it's a show that stands the test of time. It's part of the reason why, like, again, it's so popular on Disney Plus right now. Why'd you give it woke?
I think the same, basically what everything you just said, and like it's a case where it's a show where I realize like there's more positives that come out of the show than negatives. I can't even think of any negatives. I think that's the other thing. The fact that I can't think of too many off the top of my head that really stick out that make me go, nah. No, I can't. There's nothing that really makes me go, ooh, hey, I get it, 97, but it doesn't really do a lot of that. And so the fact that I can say it's thoroughly enjoyable with very few really problematic time stuff that I can show this to my nephew now and go, who's 10, and I go, hey, here you go, and he will find it just as enjoyable, just as fun, and I think my brother and my sister-in-law wouldn't go, oh, he shouldn't see that yet. They'd be like, oh, okay, this is cute, and then maybe they'll find some good stuff that comes out of it. No,
I totally agree.
And I think the cultural impact you're saying is correct. Like, did you see that? Check this out on YouTube if you haven't got a chance to yet. But there is a live-action recreation of the opening credit sequence.
No way! Are you serious?
Yeah, this was made a while ago, maybe 10 years ago. But like a couple of filmmakers just went off and just recreated the whole opening credit sequence shot for shot.
That is amazing. All right, I gotta watch that. And tell you what, we'll drop the link below and everything like that. People check that out too. Like, I gotta see that. That's amazing. And honestly, like, it's funny from a teaching standpoint for anybody who teaches. There's a lot of times we like to use videos in class to show like different concepts or whatever. And because these vignettes are so short, about like 12 to 13, 15 minutes, it's perfect using a class if you want to use to teach like a concept like characterization, dynamic character, static character, themes, different things like that. And it works so perfectly. And like you said, because it's so diverse, because it's so woke, because again it's so inclusive, I have no problem showing to my students, be like, no, this is perfectly fine to see. This is really dope. And I'll see some great writing happening here too. Like, we didn't even get a chance to talk about it, but I think I misnamed her earlier, but Miss Finster, the name of the strict teacher that we see. Yeah, it's a dope character, but we get an episode where like she falls in love, and it kind of shows the reason why you need rules and authority in society, and what happens when you don't have those things. And it's just really smartly done. So yeah, all in all, I gotta give a lot of credit to it. It's really dope, and props to Recess. I'm looking forward to us watching more.
Yeah, no. Like, it just past our homework. I'm actually looking forward to like kind of chilling out with some episodes of Recess. And it's all there on Disney+, and the movies, if I want to jump into the movies. And there's 4 of them, like I said earlier, So I think, I'm pretty good with this episode. And
what's up, Justin? Justin, you all right?
Okay. So I think we're ready to wrap this up. Yep. No,
there's one. Set for stun.
Okay.
Let me see your identification.
So don't forget to. Hey, Johnny, I'm gonna get going. I'm starting to do some stuff in my backyard.
Justin, are you Justin?
Okay, I'm fine. Don't worry. Don't, Johnny, I'm fine.
Blast them! All right, men, load your weapons.
Woo! Yo, everybody, thank you for tuning in and watching today. We had a blast making it, and we hope you had a blast watching it.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on that notification bell. All of this will help our channel to grow. And that's all we want to do. We just want this channel to grow so we can reach out to more folks like you.
Exactly. And speaking of growing, our catalog is growing every week. And guess what? We have a brand new episode happening next week. Here's a quick preview.